gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Ian's Adventures with me, Ian Lawrence, here in the great outdoors. You can probably hear the road, it's just over there, but where we're going is a little bit more secluded off down that direction. But before we go in that direction, we're going in that direction because today I've had a lot on my mind and I'm coming out looking for an adventure. Now, an adventure can be found anywhere, and I know certain places where things are sort of cast asunder by the river. Everything returns to the river, so we're going looking for things, and that's going to be the name of the video, looking for things. So we're going to look down here, we're going to walk down the side of the river. Let's not forget, when we're out here, quickly before we move on, I've got my hand sanitizer for when I've had my hands in ponds and bits and bobs, because we know about the Wills disease. And also I'm protected with the long sleeves and the gaiters in conjunction with the ticks and such like, and I've also sprayed myself with really strong bug spray. So basically I'm not going to get eaten alive. Hope that tries to eat me is not going to come off very well, and there's less chance of me getting ticks and Lyme disease and all that kind of stuff. So let's go off and have ourselves an adventure. See you in a minute. Right, everything from the industrial areas upriver, all the way down to Doncaster and beyond on the River Don, get washed up on the beaches on the way down. And it's not a bad place to come looking for things. When I was here last time I was finding bottles and all sorts, but when I was here last we had a storm and all this area here was totally clear. But I know for a fact that in here there's bottles and all sorts of stuff, old bottles, which I find interesting. So we're just going to toddle about and see what we can find. If anybody recognises this place, because this is the place where I came to do the video about crossing the river. Beautiful spot. Okay, I'm looking around up floor here and I'm finding immediately bits of pot. Now this is fairly modern, but I've seen some old stuff. So I am interested in the old pottery and old bottles and such like. I'm just going to nosy through all the undergrowth. It was easier before when all this wasn't here, but now we're into spring, everything's boosted into colour. So yeah, I'm going to put my rucksack down and I'm going to get nosy. You can probably see the amount of midges. I don't know if you can, but it's absolutely swarming with midges at this time of year. Nice bit of driftwood down there. Something as simple as a piece of driftwood like that, I mean, I'm taking that. That's really nice. It's aesthetically nice. Does that make sense? It's rounded off by the movement of the river. It's a good solid piece of hardwood. I'm going to take that. That's going to go in my magic shed. I like that. Here you go. You see, that's a piece of old pottery. You see that? That's old stuff. And sometimes if you're really lucky you can find full pieces of really old pottery, and it's literally everywhere. Yeah. So anybody can do this. I mean, here's a sign of industry. Iron filing has been created in a mill. So I'll just keep going and I'll come back to you if I find anything else of interest. Right guys, one thing you are going to find on the side of the river is quite a lot. It's coal. It's especially in this area being the industrial area, that is a lump of coal, and it's rather a large one. So in a bit we'll see if we can get that to burn, because I'll be making myself a cup of coffee, and you'll see here, look, there's lots of this coal. Now I've had some of this at home and it is quite difficult to get burning simply because it's been in the river for so long. There's another piece just there. So all this coal can be used for fuel if you're on a camp, because once you get your fire going it will burn, but you've got to get the temperature up to get that coal to burn. I found a lot of bones on here as well, as such like, but up to now that is the only bottle that I found. Not necessarily too old, but it's a bottle. Okay, so upward and onward, let's see what else we can find. Right guys, I've just found an interesting piece of pot. It's got some kind of marking there on the bottom, and it's also appears to be painted on the inside. Interesting. And this piece here, there's quite a few of these bits and bobs about out here. Just found this. I seem to recognise that. I think it's mass production. Anybody else recognise it? And also I recognise that kind of pottery as well. Coal jammed in there, look. The wildlife you get to see in places like this, and all the insect life and such like, is fascinating as well. All relevant. I've just noticed something over there which is interesting, especially considering the location. South Yorkshire is a big steel industry, well, used to be a big powerhouse of steel industry, and I think I found something which is quite relevant to the area. I actually thought that was steel rope, but it's a big piece of rope. Yeah, it's a little bit like what steel rope would look like. Oh, what we've got here. The chances of that turning up, here we go. That's the kind of thing I'm looking for, right next to my pretend piece of steel rope. So, don't know how old it is, can look into that later. Top marks, top marks. And not massively far from that one. Top marks again. Be aware if you find any bottle like this and they've got lids on and they've got these strange serrations on them, don't go opening them and sticking them near your nose, because in old days anything that had these kind of serrations, I'm not saying this one particular, the serrations stood for some kind of poison in many cases, and different kinds of poisons and such like. Alright, so just be aware of it. That's got a screw top, so not massively old, but a nice looking bottle. found this piece of wood. Look how weather's weathered all the way through the grain of that wood. That's going home with me. I find that aesthetically pleasing, that nature's done that. Yes. I've also found this. It's obviously a piece of, like, I don't know, quilt or pillar filling. But when we talk about survival rather than bushcraft, we're talking about using anything you can. And that could possibly be tinder. It's just been sat on top of the ground in the sun. That could also be brilliant tinder. Bone dry. Get a little fire going for a cup of coffee. Right guys, while that fire's getting going, the coal's getting started, I shall wash my bottles down a little bit. I won't be able to clean it inside, I'll have to do that when I get home, but there's just coal everywhere here. If I had a coal fire, I'd never be away. There's some real heat coming off that fire. Okay guys, so fire's going, I've got my water, I've got my little kettle. This is an aluminium kettle, but I don't use it very often. It's a problem that people have about aluminium cooking utensils and the aluminium that goes into your body. Well, I very rarely use it, it's not going to be an issue for me. Now before I got to put my gloves on and to prepare any kind of cooking food or anything like that, because I've had my hands in the edge of the river and on things, I'm going to get my liquid, and some people might say it's going over the top a bit, and I'm literally just going to go like that so that I know that I'm not going to start ingesting any of that water due to Weil's disease. Now the fire's a little bit smoky because it's got the coal on. The coal's now burning because it's been in the water for a long time. It's taken on board some moisture, but now it's drying out, it's starting to burn, but it does burn quite dark as a coal fire will. Very rarely do I use a kettle, a teapot, but I'm going to start using this one. The fire's so hot, I can literally just leave it on the edge and that flame is going to get up there and get that boiling. I said on the last video that I'm not going to explain everything through. I've not explained how to do the fire. I've just gone out and showed you when I've got my tinder from, put the fire together, cracked it up on camera, that's all I've done. Stuff every now and again like, you know, the cleaning hands and bits and bobs I'm going to put in, but other than that, and you always got to make sure you clean your hands before you put your gloves back on, otherwise you're taking that infection or that disease into your gloves. So even though you've cleaned your hands, you're going to take that into your gloves again. Right, I'm going to get myself a nice cup of coffee. Some right heat coming off that. I've just found this while I was salting my kettle out. I don't want to put my hands back in water again. I suppose I have to re-clean my hands anyway because I've had hold of this, but what on earth? What on earth is that? It don't look very old. There's got an indentation inside it. So there's your thing. Comments below. What is that? No idea. Interesting. Coming home. Right guys, while I'm just pouring the water into my coffee, a lot of people take the kids to coast, which is really nice. onto the beach and such like, but lots of the beaches on the rivers where you may live are very nice too. Now if you're worried about your kids drowning or something like that, put a buoyancy aid on. Just take some of this hand sanitising gel and such like, wash their hands before they eat and such like, and just set them off looking for things, because there's loads of stuff, and it don't have to get a kid inquiring. I mean, I've just been out again and found loads and loads of bits of pottery just lying around. I found this bizarre thing, and just behind where you are is another piece of. So kids find it fascinating. You do find things on beach, but it's mainly things like shells and such like. But on the sides of rivers you find all sorts, and I'd hate to think that a kid were going to find a dead body or skeleton or something like that. But that's very rare for that to happen, isn't it? So as long as you look after your kids, and I'm saying most people obviously do, look after your kids, keep an eye on them, and come down to the side of a river somewhere. We've got some beautiful rivers and weirs and all sorts of stuff, and get them out and about. So, you know, I think a lot of us find excuses not to do things, but when we've got locations like this, literally next to the road, kids would be in their aisles, they'd be in their element down here. We need to get kids out more, guys. Right guys, in the normal situation I'd totally leave a space so you couldn't tell I was there, but I will be coming back, so I'm going to leave this little fireplace, but I'm going to make sure that the fire is totally extinguished in full, and I can safely say there's plenty of water to make sure this is totally gone. So if you come down here, there's a fireplace there for you to use, but just be careful, there's not much to burn around here, but when we're having fires, always a good idea to be aware of it. Alright guys, so I'm going to go and get some more water and kill that fire off. Right, I've got a dry bag, a thick one in there, I've put all this stuff in. So I've bagged everything up, and now we're going to go off a fair few fields in that direction, because I know that down there is some trees. And we're going to swing a hammock out, and I'm going to relax for once. Off we go. We might find something else up there. Right, we're down at this location, which is just off the edge of the river, and it's obviously a place where the moo cows come down and moo and stuff. You can see this, I mean, this is not actually proper pollution, this is a reinforcement barrier which isn't reinforced very well. This is a powerful river, but it's a beautiful place. There's a lot of midges, but I've got my bionic midge spray on, so top marks. So I'm going to find myself some little trees I can swing my hammock at here, because it's incredibly peaceful. You can't hear the road. It's about half a mile back there anyway, but there's a chance I might find something interesting. I mean, all these places, I mean, I keep going on about it, but all these places, you find interesting stuff. A bit motorbike there. Yeah, it's not the cleanest river in the entire world, but there's loads of stuff you can do down here. Look at all that wood over there. I could swim over and make myself a raft. That is going to be happening on the channel at some point, everyone, by the way. I will be raft building, and I will be going down the river on a raft. Top marks. Right, I'm going to find, I think this is the perfect spot between that tree and that tree. Let us get, blimey, look at them midges, they're beauts. As long as they stay out there in the sunshine, can you see them? Maybe you can see them now. Like I say, I got my bionic midge spray. Now you got to remember that they're like that sunshine over there, but as soon as if I were to camp here and it started getting a bit dark, I would be on the menu. Hence why I bought a mosquito net. cracking stuff. Now a lot of people might say that they couldn't sleep in a hammock this small. I can sleep on a fence post. And to me, this is nice. This is relaxing. I said on my video, my last video, that I weren't going to do too much of the chatting about, you know, how to do this and how to do that, and I'm not going to do. What I'm going to do is get on with it, and I'll just show myself doing it. And if you want to see any of the stuff that I'm doing, you can just revert back to a lot of the videos I've done before. There's nearly 100 videos. You're going to find it in there, and if it's something totally new, I'll probably just mention it. But, so the channel's not going to change totally, obviously. It's just going to be like this, you know, just going out and doing things like this. Oh, this is so relaxing. I can't, oh. I don't really use hammocks to sleep in. I could sleep in this easy as pie. If I had in a sleeping bag now, I'd be out for count. I'd probably not get up next morning. They are ridiculously relaxing. And this goes in my adventure bag. And if I come out doing bushcraft and I want to crash out for afternoon, I'll bring it with me. This is just, it's relaxing. I don't get a chance to relax very much, and this is it. Oh. I better fall asleep. Cows are going to come down. I'm going to get mood. It's really nice watching them midgets go up and down. It's really bizarre. They go up there, then they come back down, they go up there, and then they come back down. It's like that. I wonder why they're doing that. Maybe they're like sheep and they're just following each other. But they definitely get so far and they shoot back up again. But they seem to shoot up that way faster than they do that. So I'm expecting that they're feeding or they're gaining energy from sun. I'm going to look into that. I find that interesting. In a bit, once I've relaxed, I'm going to go and have a little look around, see if I can find out. But I think all moose have dug all the ground up, so I'll tell you what I have found a lot, and it is a point. I found a lot of panty pads, you know, Gailey panty pads. They're not a lot fluid all the way up river. And he said, I think you're not supposed to put them in your toilet, but I think a lot of people do. But I know they're stopping the use of the, you know, the cleaning rags, because they're blocking all the rivers up. And from seeing what I'm seeing, I can understand. I've noticed it before, but never really put a point on it. There's loads and loads. No, it's not. I'm not laid in a sewerage plant, but you can see them every now and again scattered about. That's why they've done little boxes next to the toilet in ladies' toilets. Not that I've been in many, obviously, but you know, you're supposed to pop them in there. There's another few. But it just goes to show how much pollution there is. I mean, we're looking at this view now. It's a beautiful place, but it's plastic bags. I can filter that, I'm lucky. I don't know if it's a ginger thing, but I can filter the plastic bags and I can see the beauty of nature behind it. Maybe it's because I've grown up in a certain industrialised area that I've just got... Anybody from Lake District came down here to just look at river and leave. The river's brown, I'd swim in that, no problem. I don't think I'd go out there to marauder in hordes of bugs, like, because I'd probably get it middle and just all just sit on my head and sink me. I once nearly drowned in here. When I was young, we were doing this thing like we're playing army, as you do when you're lads when you're young. And I was on that side of the river and everybody were camping upfield at this end. So I got my camping rucksack and I swam across with it above my head because I thought I was Rambo or something. And I swam across and I got halfway across and suddenly realised my legs weren't as powerful as my rucksack, whatever. And I started going under. And my legs didn't go for it. I must have been underwater for like 15 feet. All you could see was my top of my arms and rucksack going across. It was like something out of a Rambo movie. And I got out to the other side and my mate was like, God, you nearly drowned. And I'm like, no, I nearly drowned. But I thought to myself at the time, I thought, if I let go of my rucksack, all my camping gear, that's an obsession for you, all my camping gear's gone. So it was a case of how far distance I could cover before my feet hit the ground while I was holding my breath. And it got to the point, I think, when I was going to drown, I'd have probably let go of my rucksack, but I think I did quite well under the circumstances. Beautiful place, apart from panty pads and plastic bags. Top mark. Oh, I love these trees, they're lovely. I ain't got a clue what they are. Just green with brown sticks on them. Right, the hammock's been put away and we're back on track. So what I'm doing is I'm walking down the edge of the river. The main path is up there over the brow of the hill, so I'm walking down here just checking in the edges, the bushes. So it's like you never know. I mean, this is it's supposed to be a fishing river because it's been cleaned up. It used to be disgusting. I mean, it's not great, but for fishing it, I've just seen some babies, and this is where the fishing points were. The river's just taken them away. He didn't want them. So we're just going to wander along the edge path of the river because it's amazing what you can find. I'm not saying I'm going to find anything, but we can have a nosy, can't we? Because it's amazing what gets washed up in these places. And I'm nosy. I found some awesome stuff outside the rivers. Good ropes. All sorts, you know, carabiners, bits of, you know, all sorts of bits and bobs. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but I found loads and loads of stuff. Well, once found a really good bag. Took it home, cleaned it up, and I still use it to this day. Love rivers. Maybe it's because I'm Pisces. Don't know. But I love sea as well. I like going beach combing. And that's another video which is going to be coming up. Again, another fishing point, which the river saw no point in, and took it asunder. There you go, all gone. But I spoke earlier about going down. I've not found out again, by the way. I'm just walking down. It appears this is where cows walk, because I'm finding loads of cow poo. Right, I've talked about bringing the kids down to a river. It's good to educate yourself about rivers and open water and streams and ponds and such like. Not only for your own sake, because I was talking earlier, as I say, about bringing your kids down to the rivers. And it's a good opportunity to educate your kids about it. And a lot of kids are a little bit obstreperous and I was like, Dad, shut up, don't be stupid. But just by telling them, informing them in a passive way, it sort of settles your mind that you have told them, because there's going to come a time in their life, in most cases, where kids are going to go off and do their own thing as they get a bit older. And if they haven't got the education or the common sense in conjunction with rivers and ponds and such like, they're not going to know, all right? They're not going to have that education, because I don't think it's part of the education curriculum at the moment, talking about rivers and such like. They might sort of pass it and cross it over. You know, if a kid at school drowns, sometimes they'll have like an assembly, or they'll pass like a leaflet around in classes just to remind kids about the dangers of rivers and such like. But there's a lot of undercurrents in places like this. As the river gets thinner in places, the river speeds up, because there's just as much mass of water going to pass through a thinner location. So it causes the river to speed up. And sometimes if that goes into a tight bend, it looks as if the top of the water is still, but the water underneath is actually still moving quite fast, so it can be dragged down into that. Also on the corners, I mean, I covered this before. I'm starting to get over this cow poo. I covered this before when I was talking about crossing rivers, so you can go and have a look at that if you want. But the roots, all right, what are called the strainers, as a river goes round a bend, it'll have all the roots coming out. If you get caught in them, you get stuck. You know, the power of the river ain't going to let you go. A river don't care if you drowned. It's got no compassion. Big branches and boughs going out into a river. There's one down there. If you get stuck in that, you're in a whole world of hurt, load of trouble. Plastic bags, man-made things, ropes, nets and stuff like that when you're out there. You could get caught in them. It's important to understand about eddies and toppers and stuff like that. How the water circulates in certain situations, because as it goes over the top of a weir or something, it'll drop down. And if it's a stopper at the bottom, it'll circulate and stops you from getting out. You can't get back to the top. The only way you can do it is to swim to either side, underwater. So a lot of people drown every year by not understanding the physiology of a river, and the way that the bank erodes, and the way that the trees grow into the river, and the way that the rocks affect the river and the currents. All right, so look into it. I'm not going into too much detail. That's not what it's about. Right, but look into it and pass that information to your kids, because if anything happened to your kids and you hadn't passed that information knowing it, you're going to have that guilt, aren't you? Well, most people will. They'll think, well, why didn't I just say something? You know, or maybe your wife or somebody you're in a relationship with, just explain it passively. Don't sit them down and document people like I do. Just sit them down and explain. Just, no, that does that because of that, does because of that, and don't go in because of, in there because of this, because this can happen. This happened to, look, research stories and explain in relation to a known story. Cold water is another one. It looks like a gorgeous day, but if water's deep, it's only about 4 foot below the surface, the water gets really cold and it finds it difficult to warm up with the rays of the sun. So when you swim out, or if kids swim out onto a lake, as soon as they get out there, the water, the shock to the system in many cases, stops them breathing. It can send your body into cramps and then you're drowned. So there's all these things to look into. So that's my advice for today, is water safety. All right, so look into it, research it, because these places are beautiful, but they're also very deadly. Right, I'm going to leave you with that wonderful point. All right, guys? But thank you very much for coming on this little adventure with me. We've been looking for things, all right? We've done more. We've had us swimming around the hammock, talked about cows and panty pads and stuff like that. But we've been looking for stuff, and I've found some nice bottles and a couple of bits of nice wood that I can use in my shed. All right, but most of all, take care when you're having your own adventures, and look into the health and safety of everything. Because when I come out on these, it might look as if I'm being lackadaisical and just going out and doing this and doing that and not thinking it through. I'm totally clued up with this, yeah? I've been a lifeguard. When I'm in water, I'm clued up. It don't mean I'm going to survive if I get into trouble. It just means I'm going to get less chance of getting myself into trouble, okay? I do some silly things on my own, yeah? But I'm a good swimmer. I'm an accomplished swimmer. I've got a good idea about about self-rescue and multiple rescues. I understand about stuff like that. So if my friend gets into danger, I can help, I can rescue those hopefully. And stuff, you know. So an assisted rescues using throw lines and tow lines and all this kind of stuff. So just take care. That is my message for this. Alright? Take care. See you later guys. And have an absolutely cracking day and go out and have your own adventures. Bye for now. Bye. Top Max. Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, and very warm welcome to Ian's Adventures with me, Ian Lawrence, here in the great outdoors. A wonderful place to be, and I get out here as much as I can. But what's the channel all about? It's about bushcraft and it's about wild camping. So we either use bushcraft shelters, basher shelters, or we use tents. Do we use maps? Yeah, of course we do. When we go up onto hills, we use maps, we use compass, and we also look at how to use a route card. What's a route card? A route card is basically an explanation of your entire route with all the different points of reference along the way and loads of information in there. And we'll look at that on the channel. But we also look at how to build a bushcraft shelter, how to create a fire reflector, how to create fire, how to use a ferro rod and stuff like that. And my constant challenge to be able to use a bow drill. We all need a challenge. And we also make bowls and spoons and all sorts of stuff. So a very, very big welcome to everybody to Ian's Adventures with me, Ian Lawrence, here in the great outdoors. Welcome to everybody.